we want to cover what I like to call hybrid ad insertion, which is called server guided. Give us a quick top level take of what that is and how you see that playing in with this ad format standardization that the IAB is working on.
Sure, sure. So, as ad solutions have evolved, right? We went from client side, we went to server side, gave us a better experience and different reach and so forth. And as it's evolved, like a lot of the items that Raymond just touched on, the experience for ads and the demand for that experience to change is really growing, right? And no longer is just the basic linear ad solution really going to solve for the problems that we need to continue to do, the engagement for ad opportunity options and so forth within the streaming space. And that's one of the major benefits of server guided ad insertion, or as you refer to as hybrid, right? Why is it considered hybrid? Well, it kind of takes a little bit of server sided and brings that experience down to the client. It lets the server guide it and makes it so it's non-critical path. So if there's also a problem, it doesn't break the whole stream as it can with server side ad solutions, but allows you to kind of get that nice seamless experience, but also have more options for better experiences. So you can do nonlinear ads, those overlays, those pullbacks, the pips, the L bars, and that's the big driver.
Yeah, I've talked about this for a long time in the context of baseball. I'm a big fan. It's like the pitching change brought to you by Speedy Oil Change. So CJ, to you, I mean, this type of stuff is sort of built for sports, right?
So yeah, and it is, except for we're looking into that. We have demand from the buy side. We have sales channels that we're working with that are hyper focused on live local sports, right? They have the demand, they have buyers asking for L bars, squeeze backs, things like that. But depending on where the experience is, if it's in game, there are vendors out there. I'm not working with anyone, I'm not promoting anyone, but Transmit or Harmonic are out there and they have solutions for this. But others that are on Media Tailor, they have to build that out, right? So it's still in this phase of it's an individualized solution. It's who you're on, and it's going to be specific to, say, the Harmonic or the Transmit specs and so forth. And also, what came up recently was because things like an L bar or a squeeze back, you're not in the break. When you move out of the break and into the actual HLS of the game, there's challenges there that are arising. So we're excited to see. Buyers are excited to see this, come about. Take that what they've known. I was watching the Rockies Phillies last night. They were doing some stuff for Rally House, but that was in the broadcast,
Correct.
right? And so when you're trying to move that there's a POC for it, so to speak, for digital, but moving that in some way, where do you insert it? Those are the challenges that we're seeing, and just early days from our end in live local sports. Other areas may be ripe for it and may be doing more with it, but that's the challenges when you're working across, say, 30 MLB teams and or so many NBA, NHL teams. That each team, if they have their D2C app outside of MLB TV or the League Pass and so forth, certain teams are releasing their own D2C apps. That's their own tech and may not fit the same bill as maybe and I don't know what MLB TV is looking into, but because obviously they have the broadcast, but you're going to have splintered fragmentation around implementation.
I mean, I just want to highlight a little bit on the technical side what you just said about broadcast, because I dealt with this, of course, at Amagi. We had a play out, like we could do actual squeeze backs, right? But what happens is you learn that there's a direct buy in a linear world. I want that one, or I want this one. It's happening in the production room. When you move to SSAI, it's just much more complicated in terms of what you're going to bring in, how it's going to work. And so I think it's really critical to point to that. And I guess I'll roll that to you, Andrew. What's your take on these ad formats? How are they? Because also, I mean, I know you serve other clients other than Cineverse, but like they're not sports. And so it becomes maybe a little bit, I don't know, maybe virtual placements is more interesting to you. Tell me what's interesting to you trick play wise in these ad formats world.
I think these formats are amazing for the publisher. They can be really powerful for the consumer. It can increase viewership of the content you want to watch versus ad time. I think to the note that CJ mentioned, Ray mentioned, David mentioned, is the supply. And I think what the problem I see with the growth of these units is it's borderline a walled garden within a walled garden. You can be a large media buyer on the largest platform. You used Max as a good example prior. You might do lots of media buying within Max. Max owns all of their media space. It's available on some of those SSPs and DSPs, but those squeeze back units might not be. And to the note of CJ, there are different vendors doing this, and they're in competition with each other for that same media buy, those different standards, those different SSAI solutions. And you mentioned it with your experience at Amagi. Who owns the stream? And that becomes a really big question mark in the growth of these units, in how the technology has to be used to allow them. I think it touches on David's note of hybrid. I think it touches on Ray's note of standardization. It touches on how do publishers connect to the media in itself. Is these units often take very deep integrations. So that can limit who has access to them to larger streamers. It needs major economies of scale to make it viable. And it blocks certain publishers from being able to enact them due to how they may be distributed. These units are largely locked to owned and operated experiences where you're in control of the end platform, which means a channel in this fast world who may not own that platform may be limited to what type of formats they're allowed to integrate with, which technology platforms or partners have cut deals with those larger entities to allow them in. And then it continues to perpetuate that. Who has that control over the supply and demand relationship? Is it the publisher? Is it the technology? Is it the platform? And then we add that fun layer of broadcast of, did the MLB put a squeeze back in that's in conflict with the squeeze back the publisher may have rights to sell? So I think we're really early days with these formats. I think that they're going to be a major part of the CTV experience, just like they are in broadcast television today. We've seen lower thirds and squeeze backs and picture, especially in live sports, but in your morning cartoons, sponsoring the next episode. So I think it's just going to take time. It's going to take alignment from the content owners. It's going to take platform awareness. And I think the IAB and where Ray stands kind of in this standardization is going to become really, really important to help open those walled gardens so that a buyer can run that squeeze back across all of the main partners, that supply of those units can be commoditized versus locked into these walled gardens.